policy on repatriation of deceased bodies, human bones, and human cremated ashes into Samoa. It's a policy that has been designed by the government of Samoa in conjunction with all the agencies working together to ensure that our borders are protected and that our national security is up to standard, and that our people are always safe. Because as we know, these days are different, and particularly with the strengthening of our national security at the border, and making sure, you will recall what happened to our country 101 years ago in 1918. The pandemic influenza struck Samoa because of the lapse and the vigilance at the border. We don't want a repeat of 1918 in Samoa. This is about exactly as we speak 101 years ago. The pandemic influenza wiped out about 25% of this country. Right? So we want to make sure that that will never be repeated in the future by asking all the citizens of Samoa, those who are residing overseas, to comply with the requirements of this policy. It's a government policy, it's a government undertaking to make sure that Samoa is safeguarded, that our borders are never compromised, and that our people are safe. Right? So the requirements as spelled out in the policy and as summarized in this checklist is: one, the official letter of request from the family. So the family of the deceased, the family of that person wishing to repatriate the bones back to Samoa, or the ashes of a cremated body. So we will need that official letter of request. Secondly, we will need a copy of your biodata, the biodata of the deceased, as proof of Samoan citizenship. Thirdly, we will need a medical clearance on the cause of death of that particular individual, and also an embalming certificate. So we will need that from the funeral parlor to make sure that the body has been properly embalmed with the right chemicals and the application of those chemicals. Fifthly, we will need a death registry certificate and a coroner's report, and then if the family plans to send the deceased body with fresh flowers, fresh roses, and the natural flowers, that will also be included in the letter of request to the government of Samoa for the clearance of the quarantine. And once we receive that complete letter of request, the Ministry of the Prime Minister and Cabinet will then coordinate the request, working very closely with the relevant ministries, including the Ministry of Health. For your information, the Ministry of Health has or administers the law that requires all these deceased bodies, bones, and ashes to follow requirements of the law as stipulated in that act. So when we have received the letter of request, we will then work together with the Ministry of Health, with the Ministry of Agriculture through the quarantine, the Ministry of Customs and Revenue through the Customs, and also the Airport Authority, right, to gauge the assessment, and also to make sure that the request complies with the requirements of the law and the policies that we do have. And once we get confirmation from everybody, then we will write the authorization through the Ministry of the Prime Minister and Cabinet and send it over to the family. All right. If you have problems contacting, or if you find it very hard to, if you're staying in a very far place, wherever in the world that you're tuning in from, We have high commissioners, we have consuls around the world to get assistance from. If you're living in the US, please contact our office in New York. If you're living in Europe, in Great Britain, anywhere in Europe, please contact our office in Brussels. If you're staying in New Zealand, we have 2 offices. We have the Consulate's office in Auckland and also the High Commission's office in Wellington. If you're if you're residing in Australia, we have 2 offices there. The High Commission's office in Canberra and also the Consulate's office in Sydney. And also, if you're staying in American Samoa, all of you who are staying in American Samoa, please contact the Consulate's office in American Samoa. All right, so that's the nutshell of this policy. We'd like everyone. We don't want to make you unhappy when you arrive at the airport and you find out that your close relative, the deceased relative of your family, cannot be allowed into the country because you did not follow the procedures. You do not have the clearance, the authorization from government for the dear member of your family who has passed away to enter our borders. So please work with us. Please work with us to make sure that we safeguard our borders and that our country is protected and that the national security of Samoa is never compromised. After